Hi, this is Chris Hickman with Decision First Technologies. In this video, I'd like to give you a demo of the SAP BusinessObjects BI Suite, starting with the BusinessObjects LaunchPad. I'm going to be using a demo system that runs SAP BusinessObjects 4 at Service Pack 6, and I'm going to show you in this video how to use the LaunchPad, how to access the LaunchPad, how to log in, and then describe the different parts of the screen once you log in. So I'm going to exit out of this demo, this slide, and jump over into my demo system. So here I've got a demo system. I'm running, like I say, this is a client machine. I've got a shortcut here that launches me straight into my Launchpad. So what I'm going to do is launch this, and you'll notice that it immediately brings up a browser. The browser goes to a URL. The URL points to BOE/BI, and this goes to a BOE40FP3 server. It's just the name of the server. The server is actually running Service Pack 6. But you'll notice that whenever I log in, it didn't ask me for credentials. We've got SAP BusinessObjects set up with single sign-on with Active Directory integration. So what that means is that I'm able to log into my image, in this case, log into my desktop with my Active Directory credentials, and then have BusinessObjects pick that up and validate my credentials with the Active Directory system and log me straight into the Launchpad without me having to enter in my user ID and password over again. And this still maintains full security. You still set up your security in BusinessObjects as you typically would, but you attach the security to my user account, or an account that has my alias, my AD alias attached to it. So what you're looking at here is the main screen for the SAP BusinessObjects Launchpad. So what we've got up top here is a title bar. And the title bar here starts off with the SAP BusinessObjects logo. Of course, this is customizable, so you can put a corporate logo, you can change the colors, so you can customize how the title bar looks. Over here, as we move over to the right, we have a welcome. So we have welcome and then the name of the user that's currently logged in, so you can verify that it's logged in as me. We have an applications drop-down that gives us a listing of the applications that we have access to. And you can see here there's several applications here: Crystal Reports for Enterprise, Explorer, Web Intelligence, things like that. We have our preferences that allows us to customize the look and feel of the Launchpad. We have our help menu that provides us help on the system if we need. We have the log off that releases our session, and it also takes us back to the login screen. And then a search that provides us the ability to search through the content inside of the Launchpad so that we can pull out the information that's relevant to what we're looking for. So then we've got two tabs here. We have Home and we have Documents. So the Home and Documents tab controls the main part of the Launchpad here. So whenever we look at Home, what we see here are 5 windows. We see at the top left, My Recently Viewed Documents. My Recently Viewed Documents shows you documents that you've recently viewed. So you can see here, these are the top documents that I've most recently opened up and run. We have the My Inbox, and this is your BusinessObjects inbox, not to be confused with your email inbox. So this says that I've got 0 unread messages in my inbox. If someone were to have sent me a report to my BusinessObjects inbox, the message would have popped up into the screen. Bottom left corner, we have My Recently Run Documents, and you can see that I've got documents here that I've just refreshed, and that provides the listing of the latest reports there. So I've got some reports here that completed successfully with the green check mark, and I've got one report here that failed. For whatever reason it failed. If you hover over, you can see the reason that it failed, and it just gives you the very generic: an internal error has occurred while calling process db commands X. So that just tells me that I need to go back into that report and figure out why there's an error. But on the others, you can see that it gives you some information about the report or about the object that you executed. So you can see title, type, owner, start time, duration, and status. In this case, status is success. Bottom right corner, we have alerts. Alerts can either be monitoring alerts that you've subscribed to. Typically that's an administrative function, or alerts from Crystal Reports. So those would show up in that window. Anything that requires your immediate attention. And then finally, in our 5th window here, we have My Applications. And My Applications is a mirror of the applications in the drop down up top here, so that we can see what applications we've got, and it makes them very easy to access. And as we roll over each one, you'll recognize pretty readily what the icons are. So we've got Web Intelligence Application as the typical Webby icon here. Crystal Reports is the green diamonds, traditional for Crystal Reports. So we can launch into our applications directly from here. So this is our home screen. We can also switch over into our documents screen. So whenever we switch over into documents, we now have a concept of drawers. So we have 4 drawers here on the left side: My Documents, Folders, Categories, and Search. And then up top here, we'll spend a little bit of time in the left side of the screen here in just a second. But we've got the menu bar up top here, so depending on what we've got selected, the different options in our menu bar will wake up and provide us items that we can use. Over on the far right, we have the refresh, so if someone adds a document to a folder and you don't see it, you hit the refresh, and it'll refresh your window here at the bottom. Then we also have page navigation, so you can snap back to the first page, go to the previous page, go to the next page, and go to the last page. And you can also jump forward, so if you have multiple pages of documents, you can type in, say, the number 5 to go straight to page number 5. So down here, or back over here on the left side, whenever we look at the My Documents drawer, what we see here is your favorites. So we've got the concept of favorites allows individual users to develop reports, develop dashboards, develop objects that they want to maintain for themselves. So in the My Favorites window, this is only available to you. So you're able to save your reports here. So if you're working on something, if you're prototyping something, you can save them in this and your My Favorites so that only you would have access to them. Of course, in the central management console in the business object system, the administrator can go into your favorites folder and see what you've got in there so that they can administer those from the CMC perspective. You've got your inbox. This is your business objects inbox, so that if someone were to send you a document, so you can see back in January of 2013, I sent myself a test document just to make sure that our system was working. So you can see that I've opened up the email and I've read it, and then it contained a Webby report. You have alerts, much like we saw in the Home tab. If you've got any alerts that need your attention, they'll show up here. Alerts that you've subscribed to would show up here. If you're using personal categories, the personal categories would show up here. So then we've got folders. Folders correspond to the public folders. So whenever you publish a report out to the repository and you make it available for other users to access, that's what we have in public folders. So you can see that as an administrator on the system, I can see pretty much everything. I don't have a lot of security locked down for the administrators group, so the administrator can typically see everything. So you see all the folders, all the subfolders inside of each of the folders, and if you go into a folder, you can see reports, dashboards, compiled dashboards as Flash objects, Web Intelligence, Crystal, workspaces. So all of that is contained inside of these public folders. And if you grant access to each of the folders to different groups, the groups to which you grant access will have access to these folders. And because of inheritance, they would also have access to the individual objects within that folder. Whenever we set security, a best practice is always to set rights on groups of users on folders rather than individual users on individual objects. So whenever an administrator sets up that security, we typically create a folder, put objects inside of it, and set security on the folder level. So we can move down here. I've got a folder set up here in the public folders for myself so that I can get into it. Any of my colleagues can also get into it. But I know these are some of the reports that I've created. So you can see a title, you can see the type of the report, you can see the last time that the report was run, how many historical instances you've got. So if you schedule these reports to run, say, every day at 7 a.m., you'll see last run was the time the last instance was successfully run, and then on the instances here you'll see the number of historical instances that you've got, and then who created the report. So another user other than myself created this particular eFashion report and saved it in my folder. It looks like because she has access to my folder, so she's able to save reports. And then I created all the rest of the reports. So you can see that I'm set up as the owner there. One thing with the owner, if the owner's ID is deleted from the system, one thing that's not very commonly known is that any of the objects that are associated with the user that's been deleted from the business object system the objects aren't deleted, they're just reassigned back to the user administrator. So they're back to the administrator user. rather than the objects being deleted. So if someone leaves the enterprise and you delete their account from the business object system, all of the objects that they owned are still in the system. They're just reassigned to the administrator. So you also have categories. So categories are very similar to folders, but in categories allow you a different way to organize your objects, your reports, and your dashboards, and so forth. So the difference between folders and categories, with folders, each object lives in one and only one folder. So this eFashion report can only live in the CH folder, since that's where that report was originally created. I can of course move it to a different folder, but then it would no longer exist in CH. I could move it to, say, the ASUG 2012 folder, and that way eFashion would exist in that folder. It would no longer exist in CH. If I made a copy of eFashion and put the copy in ASUG, I would have one copy of eFashion in CH and one copy in ASUG 2012, but that would be two different copies of the same report. So then you would have truly two copies of a report. If you modify the eFashion report in ASUG, the report in CH would not be modified. So the two reports then diverge from each other and they become two separate reports. Each report also has a concept of a unique ID and a globally unique ID. So whenever you go into the properties, you'll see those, and those IDs would be different in copies of reports, as opposed to moving reports, the IDs stay the same. So whenever you scroll down here to categories, now with categories, a single report can be assigned to multiple categories. So you can see in this mobile category, we have multiple reports here. So if I take the example, I can take the report A example and I can put it in the mobile category, mobile design, and RLC, and then whenever I go into each of these categories, I'll see A example, and whenever I open that report or do anything with that report, I'm touching the original instance of that report, so that each report can live in one and only one folder, but can be assigned to multiple categories. And then finally, down here at the bottom left corner, we have our search. And our search allows us to look for items that we're interested in. So if I typed in eFashion and hit the search button, it's going to go through the entire repository. So it appears that my index is currently building, but it'll go through the entire repository and it'll search through report and object names. It'll search through the descriptions. It'll also search through the content of those objects, so that if you say you're looking for something that has to do with sales revenue, you can find reports that have not just sales revenue in their name, but also in the content of the report, so that you can truly find reports that pertain to what you're looking for, rather than looking for a report or having to name it specifically sales something and then searching for the name. You could just name the report whatever you'd like, and then use the sales revenue figure inside of the report, do a search, and it would find that report. So then it allows you a greater level of freedom over previous versions of business objects. Okay, so back in my documents, what I want to do is go into this folder and I want to show you how we can open up a report. So I've got the sales revenue by year report, and you can see it's a web intelligence report. If I right click this report, I have several options in my context menu. View and modify are the two most important, followed by schedule and properties. So with view allows you to look at the report very quickly in an HTML viewer. So you see how quickly that comes up. You've got objects up at the top here. You can create a new report, you can open an existing report, you can save this existing report as, you can overwrite the current report or save it as a new name. You can print, you can search, you can get into exporting documents, you can move into the history, you can send the document, you can refresh the report. Of course, all of this is manipulated through security, so you can lock all of this down so that users can't do any of this. All they can do is open up the report and view it. You can move around inside of the report. You can mouse over the pie charts and show the different values. You can look at the design of the report. In this case, I'm looking at HTML. You can also look at PDF mode if you want to see what it looks like in Adobe Acrobat. You can also, if you have security enabled, if security allows it, you can also do some design of this report, so you can manipulate the way the report looks. And then also, you can look at the structure of the report, so you can see the structure of the report without any data. And depending on the complexity of your report, we can do some development in structure view as opposed to design view, because it takes a lot longer to render a report with all of its data intact as opposed to just looking at the structure of the report. So yeah, we can look at the report just very quickly and refresh it and export the data in the HTML view. If you close the report and just by clicking the X on the tab, right click and modify, that'll open up the full Java panel according to the preferences the way that I currently have them set. Now, that's the most fully featured editing tool that's available for web intelligence. Whenever you go into Java panel, of course, that requires the installation of the Java application. If you go into schedule, you can schedule reports to run at a specific time. So you can see here with recurrence, you can schedule the report to run at different intervals. So I could tell it to run daily, every day, starting at, say, 7 a.m. and change that to a.m. and then it starts on, in this case, 6/18/2013, which is the current date, and it'll the end date, so it'll run every day at 7 a.m. until 6/18/2023, and the default is for this to run for 10 years. So you can change the format of the output, control caching of content of the reports, handle events, scheduling server groups and destinations, all within the schedule. So we can hit the schedule button and schedule this to run. So whenever we right click and pick schedule, that's what happens. That's how we schedule our reports to run. We have other objects here like document link. You may or may not be familiar with the concept of open document, but we can take this link and embed it inside of a custom designed portal as a hyperlink and then provide access back into the BusinessObjects system to this report with security still in place. So you can go out to the web and you can find out more information about open document as it relates to business objects and find out more about passing parameters in. You can pass prompt data in so that you can control your BusinessObjects reports that are still secured within your BusinessObjects system externally from say a portal or any other application. So we'll close that. And then if we right click, a couple of the other options are properties. So if you look at properties here, you can see the title. I mentioned earlier the ID and the globally unique ID. You can see those. And then the physical location of that file in the input file repository server. So you can actually drill down into this directory inside of the BusinessObjects server and find where this physical file lives. So typically that's an administrative function for system recovery. So you can deal with that if you need to, but at least you know where that information is. Okay, so that's how we deal with our reports. I would recommend investigating this a bit further to look at what some of the rest of the options in the right-click menu, understanding cut copy, copy shortcut, delete. You can send to BI inbox or external email accounts if security allows that. You can assign your categories. You can set these up for mobile consumption on, say, Android devices or iPads. So you've got a lot of other options inside of here. But in this demo, I was able to show you the LaunchPad application so that you can log into LaunchPad, know how to navigate around, get to your reports, view your reports very quickly by right-clicking and pick View, and then navigating through that structure. The last thing I want to do here is click Log Off. Log Off releases my session, so typically with our licensing, we click Log Off to release that session so that someone else can pick up that session a little bit later. So depending on your licensing, you may have named licenses that mean you have a dedicated license assigned to your name, or if you've got concurrent sessions, then you'd have to release those sessions so that other users can use them. So I'm going to close the browser here and get out of my demo system. I'm going to go back into my presentation and show you some contact information. This was the part one of a series of objects or a series of videos that we've got coming for the BI suite to demo. The next video that I'm going to release is on web intelligence. You can contact me here. My name again is Chris Hickman with Decision First Technologies, chris.hickman@decisionfirst.com. You can also find me on Twitter at @CHickman72.